Hi, this is Annie Grace with this Naked Mind podcast, and I'm so glad you're here. Today we have just an awesome naked life story from Liz. So Liz, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Wherever you are, it looks really cool. Like your background looks super
Yeah,
cool.
it is super cool. I'm at work in my full-time role actually I'm in Westlake, Ohio, which is on the west side of Cleveland, Ohio, where I live.
Oh, nice. That building is awesome.
Yeah, we have a very, very cool campus. I'm very blessed with an amazing job that I love. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
How fun. And you just have a great smile. You're like, I
Thanks.
just bring good energy. It's so fun.
That's right.
So yeah, why don't you just go way back and back to the early days, first
Okay.
drink, stuff like that. Start
Okay,
there.
well, I am, I guess I wasn't much of like a high school drinker or anything like that. College is probably when it really started. And I would definitely, as much as I'm not a fan of labels, I hate labels. I would call myself a binge drinker, definitely. I was one of those that were in it to win it. Like when I was going out, I was going out full force, planning the whole whatever around it, knowing the days I was going out. And that just kind of rolled through college and then into early marriage. And then definitely when the kids were little. I have 4 children, so I guess technically one's still little. She's 7. So they span from 15, 13, 10, and 7. So we've always we've always been busy with the kids. They're very, very active and have lots going on, which is a great thing. But so the drinking just kind of kept rolling with everything, that I did. I worked in the bars early on, which is, that's just a miserable lifestyle. I always say that it's something I feel like everybody should work in the service industry because it builds great customer service skills and everything. But you work it and you got to get out of it because it's just it's nothing good happens after 2 a.m. I always say there's no good. And I keep bumping that up. Nothing good after midnight. Nothing good happens after 11. Now I'm like 9. 9's the cutoff.
It's all over at 9.
Yeah, it's done at 9. So then it just kept just rolling like as usual, So I woke up just I guess it's not a few short months ago now, but almost 9 short months ago on January 1st. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I kind of just reevaluated and knew the bad was outweighing the good. And I just didn't want to wake up feeling that way anymore. So it kind of worked out where I had planned it. I had blogged about it. I had talked about it in my mind, never shared it with anyone, about wanting to not drink, but oh my gosh, that was terrifying, just all that came with it. Because like I said, I'm not a big fan of labels. So I didn't want it to be like, oh, you're an alcoholic. That's why you're not drinking. But I knew on that morning after having all those thoughts that was the end of it. And it wasn't like there was a big event, like nothing, like the bottom didn't fall out. I don't have a good like rock bottom story or anything like that. I just knew that morning. I had actually gone out the night before and there had been events, drinking events and drinking situations that had negative effects on me and on my family and on my kids. The typical, the mom shame, all that, I laughed because when I first started reading the book, the 3 a.m. wake up, oh my gosh, it was like I had earbuds in listening to it. I was like, oh my God, is she here talking to me right now? Like, is she in my bedroom with me? Like, it was just everything like blaring at me. So there was just events that I didn't like the way they happened. Like I said, the bad outweighed the good. I blog about one where my girls play club volleyball and I had gotten just not planning on it, just a full day of volleyball. So no eating all day. And then went out with a team for dinner. And I had just gotten absolutely wasted, like 3 martinis and blown away to where I'm like, I was a happy drunk and I'm running through the hotel and going up the escalator backwards, but I'm with my, at the time, 13 and 9-year-old daughters that are like, what is going on? Like, and I remember the next morning in that hotel, just waking up and having to go back to day 2 of the tournament, just thinking, what the F, like, what are you doing? And just so many of those moments that had me stopping to thinking. I remember, just sitting in a hallway at that tournament thinking, why can't you stop doing this? Like, what is it that's not letting you stop doing this?
Yeah.
So that January 1st was just another one of those mornings. It was just like why can't you stop doing this? It was, I had gone out just expecting to be out for a couple hours, which turned into, I was still home before midnight and passed out, but then I missed out on so much with the kids. Again, I was missing their little, well, at the time, my oldest daughter wasn't little anymore, but one of my biggest regrets that I can't go back and change is that those years when they're such babies, like in those years that I was pushing them away, like I was planning how I was going to, get, so me and my husband could go out, anybody could go out, I was planning where they were going to go, after a basketball game. My kids play basketball too. So I'd be thinking in the beginning of the week, who can watch them after the game so we can go out after the game. And I'm just wishing that time away with them. And I think that was another big factor that just like still guts me, that like those were my thoughts. Like, don't get me wrong, you need your time away from your kids. Like I totally firmly believe that.
But it did. It's so interesting, Liz, because I've never really thought about this until you saying it now. And as you're saying it, like I literally have chills because I'm like, I did that. Like I did that so many
all the time.
And it felt like the last thing you said was my reason. It was like, oh, but we all need our time. I need to protect who I am. I need to make myself, you know what I mean? But like 18 years, and let's be honest, it's more like 13 or 14 years. They're gone. Yeah. They're in your house, but they're not. And like, so that time is like so short, and you have your whole rest of your life. And then I talk to all these women who, now have an empty nest, and like they're on the other side of it, and they're just like devastated that they didn't spend more time with their kids. And like, it was so that way. Like somehow that belief has gotten really strong that somehow we need to maintain our, college freedom lifestyle, going out, whatever. But like the only person we're stealing from, well, I guess we're stealing from our kids, but we're really stealing from ourselves. Like,
totally, yeah, that was huge. That was definitely huge. And I just saw a quote, a couple, I don't know, one of those that roll through Instagram, but, and I think I reposted it, but we get 18, like you said, 18 summers with our kids, and there's another one gone. Like my oldest daughter is a sophomore in high school, which kills me. Like it just hurts my heart to say that, because I know I have, and what kind of example am I setting when I'm watching her work her butt off, and then I'm deciding how she can take the little kids home and watch them so I can go out with the parents and get hammered, And I'm planning rides based on, well, when can I take them? But I don't want to pick them up because I'm going to start drinking. So I don't want to pick you up, and so I'm missing all that. So I think that was just a huge wake up, and it just happened to coincide with January 1st, which is a good a time as any, right?
Yeah.
So I woke up on January 1st. I have a good friend, Kathleen, that had stopped drinking. And so I just woke, and she was funny enough, she was one of my go-to go-out girls. Like if I knew I needed a good night, like she's, how you have your go-to people are going to be in it with you. She's one still, even though, and she had quit drinking too. So it was good timing, which is good, I guess. And then we started podcasting together, her and I, and we were just like talking about what we're going through, how all the things that you talk about in the book, all of us that stop, that are moms, talk about. I mean, it's just all that stuff. And I remember January, so she told me about your book. So of course, Audible on it, downloading it, had the earbuds in. That's really what got me through those first couple months. Every podcast, every audiobook, I literally have walked around with headphones in my ears for the past, just that's what kept me focused and going. So I remember listening to your book like January 2nd or 3rd, and I was laying in bed, like going to sleep and trying to go to sleep, because that's a whole other bag of junk. But, and I wrote it down, and I'm looking at my notes because I took pages of notes of the book. And so even in the intro, I never even got through like the intro where you're saying in the beginning how you could even just, maybe you just want to cut back to once a week, or maybe you just want to slow down in your drinking. And maybe this book is for you. And it was almost like I was justifying, like, cause that was always my thing. Oh, I'll cut back. Oh, I'll slow down. And so when I heard that you say that in the book, I was like, I can't listen to this right now, because that's just making it okay for me to cut back. And I don't want to cut back. I want to be done. So I came back to the book then in a couple months later, when I felt more secure about just being done, and then was able to took it all in minutes, in a couple days, read it all and loved it. But those were, like I said, I just got through the intro. I hadn't even gotten to chapter 1, and I was already like mind blown with everything in there, which was just amazing. So that was just, so thank you for that. That was
of course.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So then we just kept podcasting about how we were feeling. Like, I think I had some crazy, like images in my mind of how not drinking was going to be so amazing. I was going to sleep so fabulous, and I was going to feel so good, and all that. And I work out regularly and run and do CrossFit. So I was like, my workouts are going to be just awesome and blah, blah, blah. And none of it was happening. I was like, why did I do this? Like, what is wrong? Why am I not sleeping? Why is the anxiety? What is going on? So we kind of just talked about that through the podcast, kind of like those like all those things you're going through when you have to go out with people and they're like, why are you not drinking? Like the first time, you know, like I said, I quit in January, which is like the peak of basketball season, which is a very stressful time in our home. And we go out with the parents after, you know, every game. And so we go to the same like restaurant bar. And I did do, like you say in the book, I did keep doing everything the same as I was doing. Like I didn't cut friends out or anything like that. So I remember ordering the first time we went out after a game, and I was going to order, I knew what I was going to order. It was going to look like a drink. Like I wasn't going to have to explain it because it was going to have a lime in it. And it was going to kind of look like the Prosecco with cranberry that I loved. And so I ordered water. And when it came to my turn to order, it was like the whole table, like the whole place got quiet. Like there was, I was like, what? It's usually so loud in here and there's nothing. There's a million people talking at once. And now the one time I'm going to order water with soda and cranberry, the place is going to like shut up. And so, and it was like everyone turned and looked at me right when I said water. And I ordered it and they were all like, what are you doing? And, oh, you're doing a cleanse. Oh, you're going to run tomorrow. And I was like, no, I think I'm done, you know? And like
Good
I said,
for you, by the way. Wow.
I'm done. Like, you just like you said. Yeah, you're just done. But like I said, I hate labels. So I was like, I don't think I'm an alcoholic. I don't know if I'm a drunk. And so I just was like, my good friend said to me, you know what, you're just retired from drinking. You're just retired. And that's pretty much what I say now. Like I got my elevator pitch down, you know, like.
I've never heard that before. That's huge. Just retired from drinking.
Yeah. So it's just the bad outweighed the good. And I retired from drinking. And I went out like any good professional athlete does on top of my game, you know.
I did my duty, you know.
I put in my time and now I'm just retired from it. And I've never looked back. And it's been awesome. Just amazing. All good.
So I have so many questions for you. First of all, just to commiserate a little bit, I, for the first time ever this summer, had a kid old enough to do a competitive sport. So he did baseball.
Oh gosh.
And
that's like a whole nother, like I said, bag of junk.
Yeah. And I should have had an inkling. I mean, really, especially with the work I do, but I hadn't been in it. I hadn't been the person sitting on the stands with the Camelback full of Bloody Marys being passed around, saying, "Oh, I'm good. I got my kombucha."
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, "Whoa!" And then all of a sudden, they all clicked together, and then this click was going to all these bars, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh! Like this activity is a drinking activity for parents."
Yes.
Like,
oh, totally.
It was incredible to me, and I didn't feel like, I didn't really feel left out. I didn't feel a lot of judgment. I'm obviously like really passionate about what I do. And so I felt a lot of like, just, I think what I felt more than anything was, I remember feeling like, man, so nobody snuck in the beers. Oh, this is going to be a long game.
Yeah.
And then I also was fully present in the like, wow, this is incredible. Like my husband has the baby. I'm the one taking my 9-year-old to this game. I just get to sit here in the sunshine and watch him play. Like I am so high on life right now. Like this is amazing. And the guy next to me is super bummed because the other guy forgot the beer. And I remember that. I remember feeling like life wasn't complete if I didn't have a drink. And like to take that out and just be able to find completeness in what was happening. Oh man, I was just like, it was such an interesting experience. And it opened my eyes to the fact that this kids in sports thing, I mean, we're just starting and it's going to be, and I mean, then I talked to a friend about it and she's like, oh yeah, like we play football and everybody brings booze to the sidelines and it's not allowed. It's not legal.
No.
Booze at the sidelines, but it is in every water bottle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, wow. And then we're all driving our kids, and oh, it's so intense. It's so intense. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight on that because this summer was my first summer with it. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah. It's a whole nother I call it an underground world, like AAU and JO and all those sport, like that's what it's called here where we live, but it's the same everywhere, I think.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And then there's another thing you said that I would love to chat through because I get this question a lot, especially when you get curious about sobriety and you start following everybody on Instagram and you start hearing, and I mean, when people are a few months, a few years in, people are pretty stoked. Like there's like nobody, people made the decision for, like, they're pretty happy. They're pretty high on life. They're like in a good place. So you're new and you're reading these things and you imagine, okay, I'm going to stop drinking and tomorrow I'm going to wake up and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows and off I go into the sunset, and it doesn't happen. So talk through that a little bit.
Well, I guess like in the beginning, I was like, I thought it was going to be sunshine and rainbows. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, I feel like shit. Like this, sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Oh yeah, of course. I put explicit on everyone because I never know what's coming out.
I know. That's how we say that about our podcast too, because we drop like F-bombs and okay. So I feel terrible, I feel terrible and I'm sleeping terrible. And in the beginning it was more, like I said, I still went out with all the friends, but so that didn't really bother me. But even into this summer, I remember thinking on my birthday, I just had, again, my husband was off with one of my daughters at a basketball tournament for like a week. And I was home alone on my birthday thinking, if I still drank, I would have friends around me right now. Like right now I don't. Like, why did I stop doing this? And so it was more so like, why am I not sleeping well? Like I thought, oh, the reason I slept terrible before was because I woke up in the middle of the night because, like you said, the sugar wears off and then you have that uninterrupted sleep. My workouts, like they were the same. Like it wasn't like I was running faster or lifting more weight or anything like that. So I was really thinking, why am I doing this? And I think in the back of my mind, I read things and I listened to podcasts where everybody kept saying, oh, it takes time. It takes time. So I was kind of felt like, okay, I'm going to give it some more time, obviously, because it's day 2 or 5 or 6, month 3. But by month 3, I would say is really when I got frustrated. Like, why is this not clicking? And then it kind of turned into that time where things started clicking. The other thing that made a huge difference was, like I said, kind of that elevator pitch. I was super uncomfortable in the beginning, like talking to people about it. And saying, oh, I feel terrible, or, oh, because like, I don't
want to give it a bad name, right?
Right. And I don't want my friends to be like, oh, well then you should stop doing it. You know what I mean? The ones that still are drinking that I'm still hanging out with, then they're going to be like, well, that's why you should just drink, even though I'm not saying they weren't supportive, because they were very supportive, but they're still like, well, then you should just drink. Why are you not drinking? And I didn't want, so it wasn't like I could talk to anybody about it and feel comfortable talking about it. So again, I listened to podcasts, read books, and blogged and podcasted about it on my own end. But the thing I think when I got the most comfortable was when I got that elevator pitch. Like when I could confidently communicate why I stopped and without saying I'm an alcoholic or ever, you know, because everybody says, oh, what happened? Like, oh, you got a DUI.
Yeah.
Oh, you got, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I don't, no, nothing happened. So when I could confidently communicate that just the bad outweighed the good, and I just did, that was the end of it. I'm done doing it. Then I think it improved because I felt more confident in myself and more confident in my decision and more confident. Sleep, though, I think is always going to be rough. I don't know if that'll ever change. And the anxiety, oh, I don't know if that'll change either.
Well, and that's the thing is that like what happens is so we see sleep in a different way, right? Because instead of when we're drinking, we can fall asleep really easily, almost instantaneously, because we're really passing out because alcohol is just shutting down our brain. I mean, it's amazing that, I mean, I do have a lot of dental work, but it's amazing that my teeth aren't worse than they are because I had a glass of wine by my bed and I would fall asleep, you know, having on your, like that wine was, I didn't get up and brush my teeth after that. Like it was reading, glass of wine, and then waking up in the morning, empty glass of wine. Like there was not, you know, and I think I'd brushed my teeth before, but then I'd poured one more, like, who knows? And that couldn't have tasted good, by the way. Or I wasn't brushing my teeth at all, which is even worse. So either way, it was disgusting. Let's just be honest. But then it was so easy to fall asleep, but then I was inevitably up in the middle of the night, like inevitably, right? And so anyway, there is this, William Porter has this book called Alcohol Explained, which has this chapter on sleep that is just so, so good. So if you haven't read it yet, you should. And on William Porter, and I actually interview him in one of my programs, the free program, Alcohol Experiment, which you should just go through it because it's just awesome. But like basically it's every day is a video, either an interview or just a video from me and an email. And it's at alcoholexperiment.com. And it's just like totally free program. But he does an interview on sleep that like, it will make it make sense to the point that you will not at all feel like you will know in your heart, and I bet you'll start sleeping better. So anyway, that's on sleep. But then the anxiety one, again, it's this thing that we expect it to be amazing. And, you know, neurochemically, alcohol increases our anxiety. So then we say, okay, well, why are we still anxious? Well, guess what? Like we have a thinking problem that we have to get to the bottom of in a big way. And then some people are literally like me masking very serious depression or anxiety or panic attacks and stuff. And so then when you don't have that switch to switch off those feelings and you have to sit with them, even though overall, and science shows overall your physical anxiety levels are lower, the actual cortisol in your body lowers, you know, so overall, but mentally and emotionally, you're feeling it more because you're not turning off the ability to feel it. And so even though like you are experiencing less anxiety, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like you're experiencing more anxiety. And I guess my best anxiety book, the thing that has gotten me through is Byron Katie's Loving What Is. So that book for me, it's just so good. It's just this practical way because you know, and there's different opinions, like do thoughts precede feelings or do feelings precede thoughts? Or is it, and I kind of have the theory that like we have these subconscious thoughts that are running on a circuit and they precede the feelings, but then we have to dig back in and say, what were those thoughts, and kind of bring them out. And then when we bring them out and deal with them, then they really kind of let us go. And she just has this very simple method of like handling your thoughts. And I mean, it's awesome. Like that book is so good. But I do think, you know, all that to say like, what you're talking about is just so typical, where people are, you know, we expect because what we've seen, and because right now your story, I'm sure if anybody talked to you, your big, huge grin, you're 9 months in, life is amazing. And they would have the same expectation. They would be like, okay, if I stop drinking tomorrow, it's going to be unreal and amazing. And I think that, you know, just letting people know that like there is that adjustment time. And sometimes if there's something actually serious going on, whether it's like a serious sleep issue or a serious depression issue, it surfaces. And, you know, the only way, like really understanding that like alcohol is not the answer, but it is a gift to have to deal with the thing, because dealing with the thing helps you get through the thing. You know?
And that's the hardest part, like dealing, like you have to feel all those emotions, like, you know, going through that, you have to get it out. You have to feel it. Like everyone always tells you that, and you're like, no, you know, like,
right.
If someone would have told me that a year ago, I'd been like, no therapist, no talking through this, you know. And now it's what cures it. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that now. Yeah,
I know, and it takes that, but it's the coolest thing. And I forget who it was. There's this book called The One Thing, and it's just about like how it's amazing analogy. Actually, if you take a domino this small and then you like increase the size of it by 50%, that tiny domino can get enough force to knock over a domino that would reach the moon physically, like so within a like in physics.
Wow.
And so it's phenomenal. Like that's just a crazy thing. But like the 56th domino is as tall as the Empire State Building, and then it just like exponentially. But that first knock can get enough power to just keep going. Anyway, alcohol is that first domino.
Yeah.
It absolutely is that first domino, and over and over and over again. You know, I hear stories of people, you know, especially like entrepreneurs who their entire business took off, or they quit their job and they started this business, or people who just got like this incredible fitness and stuff. But it's only that first domino if you don't stop the momentum by saying, oh, wait, do I need to go back there? You know, there's a reason on January 1st you said this is done, right? And so those thoughts about like, well, wait, was it better? You know, like we're just not, as human beings, I don't believe we are designed to move backwards. I think it is very uncomfortable for us to even contemplate it and to move backwards. It feels the opposite of growth. It feels the opposite of progression. And so when we say, okay, no, and then we move forward and we go through some of those more difficult things, I mean, the things that start opening up in your life are so beyond your expectations. Because I was like, okay, I'm going to stop drinking. That's going to be cool. I had no idea I was going to write a book, you know, no idea that would end up becoming like, I've just been asked to speak to a panel of 200 judges as the alcohol expert in Mississippi. So like, that's insane. Like where did that come from?
I'm the expert.
How is that possible?
Like, I'm just somebody's mom. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just was drinking too much. Like that's my claim to fame. So anyway, but it is incredible. But you're right, you have to go through it. And then to see the progression of momentum of things that kind of pick up. And that's just like over and over. But in those first early days, you're out of your comfort zone. Things are different, and you're feeling things that you have turned off your feelings for probably as long as you can remember.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, don't look back, because I have a mentor that had said that even when I was drinking. And I remember thinking when I heard that, I mean, everybody hears that, don't ever look back, right? And it just is kind of one of those things that you don't ever think about. And when I heard that from them, I was like, oh, like, you're right. Like, I'm not going to look back. Like, even on this and right now, just going through hard things. Like right now I'm going through a hard thing, and I keep thinking to myself, I kind of like take myself out of it to try to get like a level set on what's happening. Like I can't control that. So I have to like kind of like look at it from a 10,000 foot view and don't look back behind it, because you have to get through it. Where I think when you're drinking, it's just so much easier to stay in that spot. Like you just get stuck in that cement. Because, and I don't mean it in a bad way with friendships, but that's what they're doing, so they're staying in that spot. So if you continue to surround yourself in cement, you're going to get molded in cement. If you're sitting in cement, it's going to dry, and you're not going to move forward. And so I've really been trying to focus on that, not looking back piece of it.
That's huge.
And like you said, and like you're saying with the friendship, it's hard to shed, because I don't want to shed those friendships, but it's hard to know that you're evolving through them and you're moving forward and you're trying to do something different for whatever reason. But it generally, like when I quit drinking, it was all 100% me. It had nothing to do with my, my great, amazing, fun, awesome friends. But turning it around to try to say to them, it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you, where they're like, well, why would you do that? Like, what are you going to do when we go do this? And what are you going to do? Oh, but you're not drinking, so you can't go on a cruise with us because we get the drink package, and things like that, where I'm like, okay, listen, this has nothing to do with you, because people start to look at themselves. I get that, and judge or think about what they're doing. And I understand that like pops in their heads, but there was so many conversations where I was like, please, like really, I'm just trying to get through my day. Like, this has nothing to do with you. And I love you, but I don't love you that much that I would change, you know?
Right. Well, that's huge. And I think it's so important. And I think that like, it's so threatening. I remember when my first friend stopped drinking, I instantly thought about me. It was like a mirror, because the thing that's happening inside my mind at 3 a.m. is happening inside your mind at 3 a.m. and her mind at 3 a.m. her mind at, like, we're all in that. And so, and I think the scariest part, the reason that it's so intense for people when their friends stop drinking, and why we should just have so much compassion and be as gentle as possible and not be preachy about it, is because not only is it bringing up this mirror, but it's a mirror that they have, I guarantee, asked themselves hundreds of times, should I be doing this? And like every time they've come to, but I don't think it's possible. I don't know how. So it's not only that you're stuck in concrete, it's that you have no tools to get out of it. It's that the only tool that you've ever been shown to get out of it involves literally abandoning life as you know it. And, you know, I mean, I know for me, when I was thinking about it, and I think, you know, AA has its place and it can be a beautiful program. But for me, when I was thinking about this, and I had 2 young boys at home, you know, 2 and 4 years old, and I was like, 90 meetings in 90 days, I cannot even make it to feed my kids dinner with my job. And like, there's no possible way. So I just could not physically do it. Even if I wanted to do it, I couldn't physically do it. So I felt so stuck that, you know, it's not as if, it's not like something where someone gives up coffee and you're like, yeah, I could do that. You know, that's interesting. Oh, but I've decided I don't want to. It's like, you don't feel like you can, you know? And so like the feeling of the only choice to you is to double down on what you're doing because you don't see another option. And so that doubling down feels to you like the pressure, the you know, because they have to double down on their own decision because there isn't another option because they feel so stuck, you know. And that's, I don't know. I see that we will have a world, though, you know, in the nearer future. I already see it changing just in the 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this, but where it really does become okay to talk about this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I agree. And I feel like it's a trend. Like, it sounds terrible, like it's trendy or it's the thing to do because, you know, you want it to stick, you know, and be that way forever. I'm not in a trend, but I feel like, like you said, like the conversations are there, which is awareness is there, I think, a lot more. And just with like the social media outlets, like, you know, seeing those things when you have like all that mommy, you know, mommy happy hour, mommy, all that ridiculousness, now that people are calling that attention to it, you look at it in a different light. And we talk about like that. So the company I work for, this amazing place I'm sitting in, which I love, but it's a company, and you know, you were in I mean, that's like the culture in big companies. Like the Christmas parties are like, you know, rages, you know, and every event there's some sort of drinking component to it. And you don't start to look at those things until you're retired from drinking in a different light. So, you know, one day I just happened to be walking down the steps and someone was wearing one of those shirts that said like, "Kiss me, I'm drunk," or something like that. And I was like, oh, like that's so gross. Where for the past, you know, 44 years, I've been reading those shirts thinking, oh, that's kind of funny, you know? And now I'm like, what happened? Like, how did my whole mind switch like that? Like where I'm like, God, that's gross. Or now when I see the mommy things, like there's wine in this water bottle or whatever the case may be, you know, I'm always like, that's just dumb. Like, that's annoying, you know? Like, I don't care what's in your water bottle. I don't care if it's Gatorade, you know, like,
right.
Dumb. So it's funny how your mind shift changes. But like I said, I think there's more awareness to all that, where I think it's almost like not the thing to do, but more trendy now, or more awareness to call that kind of stuff out, which makes it easier and better conversations, you know, podcasts, you know, things like that just makes it more tools to get you out of that cement, more tools available to get you moving forward.
Yeah, because we wouldn't be so afraid of the conversation or so afraid of our friends drinking if we had hope that it could easily be different. Right. That's so cool.
And like where I grew up, in high school, I don't know, my age bracket in high school, if someone drank, you got shipped off to rehab. Like that was the end of it. You were going to, you were getting checked in, where now, like you said, there's tools, there's AA, or there's just people, and there's so many tools and podcasts and books and events that, that are out there, that you have so many more options to move forward now where you didn't have in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the end of my rant on that.
No, but it's 100% true. So 2 questions for you to finish up. And first one is your blog and your podcast. Where can people find you?
The podcast is Drunk Mom, Sober Mom. And it is on iTunes and WordPress, all that. You can link to it from my blog. So if you go to elizabeth-simon.com, it's all there. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But if you search Drunk Mom, Sober Mom, it comes up.
Internet down, back on my cell phone. So anyway, but so the last question is, if you were going to go back and talk to Liz, who was, kind of waking up in the middle of the night, and tell her about what life is like now, and just give her some encouragement, give her some advice, what would you say?
To stop being scared, that it's not as crazy as you think it's going to be. Hard. It's hard, but you're going to be able to get through it, and it's going to be fine. And it's not, you're making this a bigger deal in your head than it really is in actuality. Get out of your own head.
Yeah. So true.
And stay retired. Stay retired.
Yeah. Don't look back. Don't go backwards. Nobody goes back to work after they retire. I mean, right. Yeah. That's so cool. Well, thank you so much, Liz. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
No problem. I felt bad. I was hanging out in there. I'm like, do I click it off? Yeah.
Oh, and I couldn't even get in touch with you. I had to anyway, but yeah. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
This has been Annie Grace with This Naked Mind podcast. Thank you so much for listening. You can learn more at thisnakedmind.com. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, as it really helps us spread the word.